A big problem that a lot of guys have when they're dating, especially if you're newer and inexperienced, or if you have a lot of anxiety and a really deep seated lack of self worth and self respect. I went through this a lot. You can be skeptical when girls like you. I mean, it can even go to the extreme where you think that she's playing a game on you or playing a trick on you. If you have a really bad sense of self esteem, like you can think, oh, she's just liking me so that she can trick me and reject me and then make me look bad. And those situations do happen. They're very, very rare. I can only think of less than a handful off the top of my head in a lot of dating where a girl tried to play a game with me. But you could take it to the extreme and think that, or you can just be skeptical, be like, maybe I'm seeing this wrong, maybe I'm misinterpreting it. And so you don't take action. You don't flirt with her. You don't ask her out. If you are on a date with a girl, you don't, try to hold her hand or try to kiss her or, have some sort of, contact with her, intimate contact. You invite her home, something, right? You don't try it because you're skeptical of whether or not she likes you. Now, when it comes to like breaking the touch barrier, touching her leg or touching her hand, or going for a kiss, that's a little bit more difficult because you feel like you want to read the signs better because you don't want to make her feel uncomfortable, right? You don't want to make someone feel that way because you care about people. That's a little bit more of a you maybe should call into question whether or not you're reading the situation correctly. Just a little bit more. Not to the extent where you're obsessive about it, because there's nothing wrong with leaning in and trying to kiss someone, okay? I know that you feel that's how it is these days, but it's really not, okay? It just seems that way because you see very extreme cases where girls, falsely accuse someone. But it's not the majority. It's just because it's highlighted by the media, and so you see it a lot, so you think it's a really rampant issue. And for some people, unfortunately, you might encounter someone who would do that. But the vast majority of the time, leaning in and trying to kiss someone, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, okay? I mean, someone just has to turn their head or just kind of lean back. So I don't want you to think that, you have to live in fear, because you shouldn't. If you're on a date with a girl and there, there's some, or, you're flirting with someone, the context is there where you can give it a try. Okay. So definitely don't live in fear. Obviously with more extreme things like grabbing a girl's ass or trying to finger her. I mean, yeah, those are going to require, a very specific context. Like you're making out already, you're on a couch, and you start in a safe place, like her elbow or her hand, then you work your way to her waist. Think of it as like you step up, right? And you're going to feel in doubt as to whether or not, can I take this next step? Well, the question you just have to ask yourself is, can I do one step before it? Well, yeah, she let me grab her waist. Okay, you're making out. Then you can take that next step, pretty confidently. But so I don't want you to be in fear as to like morality, right? Because most of you, I would assume you're a pretty moral person and you're looking out for her best interests. You want to fuck her, but you also care about her as a person. So, in that case, just think, what's the step before it? For your confidence, however, you might be in doubt because you just have a low sense of self-worth, right? It's not that you don't understand what's okay and what's not okay. It's just that I don't think she's going to like it. Like it's on the level of confidence. For that, what I would suggest for a lot of guys is when you see what you perceive to be interest, just accept it how it is, right? Almost like, you ever seen those jokes where it's like 70 IQ or 80 IQ is here, and then the bell curve of intelligence goes up, and then, you have your really smart people and your geniuses on the other end, and it's this like this graph. And on both ends, the people say the same thing, right? Like the really dumb guy says, just go for it, bro. And then the really smart person says, just go for it, bro. But the person at the top is like, oh my God, I have to make sure that, and I have to, consider all these possible variations of what's going on. And He's smarter. He's smart enough to have that ability to have a lot of thoughts in his head, but he's not smart enough to just know when the answer is simple, because the really smart people have the ability to go, yeah, this is just a simple answer. I don't have to question it 1,000 times. So most of you are, because of the statistical thing, are here. You're just like average, right? So I want you to either think of it as like just be really dumb or just be really smart. Where if a girl is showing signs that she likes you, is it really worth that few percentage situations where you're wrong, right? Because if your intuition is telling you that she likes you, more often than not, you're probably right. You may not know the exact reason why she likes you, and you may not know the degree to which she likes you, because that's what kind of differentiates a guy who's like a player, a seducer, from a guy who's like, okay, he's just, you're a normal guy. You can, tell when a girl likes you. The seducer can like tell like, oh yeah, she's ready to fuck. Like within like 15 minutes of meeting her, 20 minutes of meeting her. He might think, yeah, she's horny, like she wants me, because he's seen these behaviors before. These very subtle ways that she looks at you, or the way that she talks to you, or she makes a comment. And that it's a sign that she's really interested in you, and you can capitalize on it. You're gonna be like, oh, okay, check. Like, I know I can ask this girl home within, either now or in a couple minutes or in an hour. Like, she needs a little bit more, we got to build a little bit more of a connection, but she's down, right? Whereas the guy who's just kind of more normal, he can tell, oh, she likes me, but he doesn't know to what degree. Like, I had a client one time, he met like his dream girl. Like, literally, he went to this conference. It was a fitness conference, and there was this girl that he had a huge crush on Instagram, and he had messaged her once on Instagram, and he knew she was going to be at this event, and he really is into like, a little bit more muscular of girls, and he's like, what should I do? Like, how do I meet her? I said, dude, just walk up to her and say, hey, what's up? How are you? Like, don't walk up and say, hey, I'm a huge fan. No, because that's going to put you in fan zone. Just walk up, be like, hey, what's up? How are you? Nice to see you. And he's like, well, what do I do if like she asks like who I am? Just be like, oh, I talked to you on Instagram one time, which technically is true. Like, I talked to you, like I said something to you, and just casually say that. Don't say I sent you a DM and you didn't respond, because that's a bad way of phrasing it. Just say, yeah, we talked one time, or I talked to you, I guess is the more, legalistically true thing, because she didn't respond. Right. So he did that. He literally walked up to her. He saw her, and she was just like, hey, what's up? How are you? She's like, hey, how are you? And they started talking. And she's like, hey, where, just so I know, or I can remember, where did I know you from? And he's like, oh, I talked to you on Instagram one time. She's like, okay, whatever. That's it. She just fucking accepted it, right? Because technically it's true. Send her a DM, right? And she was cool with it. She didn't probe any further. That's it. What she was just trying to figure out was like, are you just some random weirdo? No, you're a random guy that I don't obviously remember. So she knows she doesn't really know him. So it was more of like a shit test. Whatever, cool. So they started talking, and either she invited him, or she's like, oh, I'm going to get some sushi, because there's like a restaurant in the, in that building. And so he went with her. And so this is like his dream girl, right? So he's on a date with her, fucking to him like a celebrity among celebrities. And at some point, she made a comment about how this sushi is so good, and she just loves sushi. It's her favorite food. And she's like, sushi is better than sex. And he said, when she said that, he kind of froze up and didn't know how to respond. And later on, when we reviewed the conversation he had with her, he obviously didn't, he didn't close with her because he got nervous. And then they kept in contact. He got her phone number, and, he tried to text her, but he ended up fucking it up. And he lost her. And she, gave him the typical, like, hey, it was nice talking to you, but, I don't really feel the chemistry, whatever, text. Or she left him on red. I can't remember. But he didn't get anywhere with her. And while we were reviewing it, he told me about that. And I said, dude, that was a huge moment. Like, she's not going to bring that up if there's not at least some sort of feeling of, like, sexuality around you, right? Like, if a girl is friend zoning you hard, the only time she's going to bring up sex is if you've been friends for a long time. So she feels comfortable around you, like you're like a gay best friend, right? But if you just met, a girl's not bringing up sex if you're being friend zoned. Like, most of the time. There might be some small exceptions, right? She's just a very sexual person. She's kind of just comfortable with sexuality. Okay, sure. But is that really worth, think of that graph. Is it really worth hyper analyzing that one little possibility? Or do you just be the either really dumb guy or really smart guy and just go, hey, she just brought up sex, like randomly. That's something, right? I should act on that. So he should have said something like, well, you must be not having good sex. Or, well, the guys you've hooked up with must not be really delivering the goods, right? And then that'll perk her up. Be like, oh, okay. Would you be able to deliver those goods, right? That would be the underlying conversation there. Just a small comment, but he froze up and he didn't take it to that place because he was putting her on a pedestal and idolizing her, of course, right? It's very normal. It's going to happen. You have to get comfortable around the women that you're really, really attracted to, whatever they are. It could be muscle mommies. It could be, petite Latinas. It could be, dolled up Eastern European white girls, whatever the fuck you're into, right? You got to get comfortable with that. But because you have it on a pedestal, you get nervous, and then you don't act on it because you're questioning it. Because he didn't know what it meant. And I was like, well, it's pretty obvious. She's talking about sex. Sex is not something a friend zone would talk about. So act accordingly. So don't question too much when a girl is attracted to you. Just accept it at face value and act on it. So if you're talking to a girl and you're like, I think she's flirting with me, ask her out. If you're on a date with a girl and you feel like she's flirting, she's really showing a lot of interest, reach over and touch her hand, or she's next to you, because you should, have a date with a girl next to you. Not always. Sometimes girls, are going to sit across from you and you're like, hey, come sit next to me. She's like, no, it's okay. All right, cool. Well, what is that? That's a sign that she's on a date with you, so she's interested, but she's not that interested. So you also have to accept those on face value, accept the boundaries on face value, and accept the rejections at face value. Because when you put too much stock into either the positive or the negative, it also makes you obsessed with the opposite, right? So if you're super questioning the positives, then you're also going to be questioning the negatives a lot, and you're going to put too much emotion into them. Oh my God, she rejected me. I'm such a piece of shit. Oh my God. And you get too obsessed with it, just like you do the positives. Or, oh my God, is she into me? I don't know. But usually what's interesting is that a lot of times guys tend to accept the rejections at face value, but then they obsess over the nature of it, like the why, but they don't just accept the positive at face value, but they obsess over the why. It's kind of an interesting phenomenon. I guess there's a small little subtle distinction there, if you can, some nuance. But you just need to accept it. So if you're on a date with a girl and she is showing interest, put your hand on her leg for a second. See how she reacts. Did she like it? Did she not? If she doesn't move your hand away or start to shift uncomfortably or do anything that's negative, then that seems like a pretty good response, right? And especially if she looks at you and keeps acting completely the same, that's a very strong sign of passive acceptance. She's not going to say, oh, I have observed that you put your hand on my leg, and this is communicating that you want to put your finger in my snatch. She's not going to fucking talk like that, right? So she's just going to be like, oh, okay, she just keeps rolling with it. Clearly, it's a sign she's into it. And even more so if she smiles. Maybe she gives you a cheeky little smile. So accept it. If you're talking to a girl and you're face to face with her, let's say you're at a party or a bar or a club, and she's getting really close to you, what is she communicating? Go for a kiss. Fuck it. YOLO. And you can offer these steps, right? You're on a date with her and she's really showing a lot of interest. And maybe you want to wait to go for the kissing or touching until you're alone in a private place, which is sometimes a really good idea for the sake of, a girl feels more it's just feels like a private place so she can kind of let loose. There's some girls like that, they're super shy, and then the moment the door closes, they'll just start gagging on dick, right? Just ask her home. Ask her to your place. Hey, you want to get out of here? Yeah, sure. Go. That's why I always advise for my clients, start trying to get girls home on the first date. Doesn't mean it's always going to work, but what I'm assuming you're doing is you're not accepting interest at the correct value, which is only something you learn through experience. Does she like me 50% or 51%, 58% or 99%? Can you tell the distinctions? Usually the more extreme ones are pretty obvious, but can you tell the difference between 60% and 80%? Right? Because 60%, you might be confident enough to go for a kiss, but really it was 80% interest, and you could have gotten your dick sucked. Why wouldn't you? Like, if someone offers you $20 and $50 and there's no catch, you take $50. Just fucking take it, okay? So, accept interest at face value. Don't question it. Just go, okay, next. And if you do get it wrong, so what? Yes, did you maybe embarrass yourself? Okay. I would rather get embarrassment than have regret. Embarrassment is 1,000 times better than regret. As long as you're not doing something immoral, which you shouldn't be, right? Because you're not a piece of shit. Okay, you just got rejected. It was embarrassing. So fucking what? Just go for it. Okay? So, stop being in the middle of the bell curve and be on the ends. If you're not really smart, perfect. Be really dumb. It's actually a lot easier. She's smiling at me. Okay. Hey, you want to go out sometime? Well, I'm on a date with her, and she's like, really smiling at me and really looking at me a lot and laughing a lot. Okay. Hey, you want to get out of here? Fuck it, dude. You have no idea how interested she actually is because you don't know the signs. So in your ignorance, just assume positivity. Why not? As long as you're not doing anything wrong, there's no downsides, right? Because you don't have the information to act on it. Would it have been perfect if you know exactly how interested? Yeah, but the only way you get there is by being retarded enough to try. You can only learn most stuff about girls in retrospect. That's how I do my coaching. Guys want to hear all this shit, and I'm like, dude, I could sit here and lecture you like a YouTube video for fucking ever. But you could just get that for free on YouTube. I have like fucking 500 videos on YouTube. You could spend the entire year watching videos. That's not what coaching is for. Coaching is, I give you some tips based on my experience of guys similar to you. And I'm like, hey, you should work on this and this and this. Because I've either gone through it or seen a guy go through it. So it's just a simple old thing that I've seen before. Usually you need to work on this. Some guy needs to work on this. Some guy needs to work on something completely opposite. Like, I'll tell one guy, you need to start simping more, show more emotion, start trying to ask girls out, like really show a lot of effort, because that's what you need, because that's your weakness. Another guy, I'm going to tell him, you need to relax. You need to chill the fuck out. You need to slow down, talk slower. It's not a one size fits all recipe. Different guys need different ingredients. But the only way that this is going to be shown to him, because he might believe me because he trusts me, he's paying me for coaching, but he doesn't know it's the truth. He just believes it. But there's a difference between belief and knowing. The only way he's going to know is he goes out and tries it and then gets the results. But then if he comes back with either positives or negatives, then I can see if he did it right or not. Or if there's another issue that I wasn't aware of because I didn't see him in action. He goes out and he tries all this stuff, or he texts a girl and he shows me the screenshots. I can only really help you in retrospect, or if I know exactly what preceded it. So I can help with texting, like, show me the last thing you texted her. Okay, text her this. But I need to know the context. How did you meet her? What was the conversation like? Or, if you didn't meet her, okay, show me the only history you have with her is your text conversations because you met her on fucking a dating app. Okay, what's the history? So show me everything. Okay, this is my best guess. And it's usually pretty good. But I only know that because I looked at the past and I see the trend and I see the patterns. Or if he went in person with her and he has a date and he goes over the date, I'm going to go, hey, this. He didn't even see it. He didn't see all that shit because he doesn't know what to look for. And that's fine. But the only way that I knew this is because he tried something and I saw the reaction and I saw the result. So that applies not only to my coaching methods, but to your experience yourself, because a lot of you won't be able to, afford coaching, or, you want to try it on your own. That's fine. You can do that completely, right? It's usually going to move a lot slower, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes that you could have just been, fixed because I know what not to do. But if you are going to, at some point, even if you do coaching afterwards, you're going to have to move on your own. So it is a skill you should learn. The only way you learn is by trying something. The worst thing you can do is try nothing. There's only a few situations where doing nothing is actually a really good move. It's there's some very niche situations, right? Where like you shouldn't say anything or you shouldn't text back. There's a few situations where that's the right call, but the vast majority of times you need to do something. You need to try something. You need to say something. You need to react in some way. You have to take some sort of action. And you're going to be stuck in an endless cycle of fucking obsessive compulsive thinking if you don't just accept things at face value and act accordingly. Same thing with the negatives. If you really think a girl's not interested, okay, act on it. Just leave. Get up and get out. I just had a client. He actually tried it. I advised him that he try this one time. That if he gets on a date with a girl, I want him to just walk away. Say, hey, it was nice meeting you, but I'm going to leave. And he just had it happen. Because when I first told him that, he was like, really? I can do that? I'm like, yeah, why not? It's happened to you before. Why can't you be the one? I said, but you should only do it in the really extreme situation where a girl's just really not giving you anything. Like she has a wall up. She's not responding a lot. It's like there's something wrong. And call her out on it. Be like, hey, and this is the situation. He was on a date with a girl and she wasn't giving him a lot. And so I advised him, be like, hey, I feel like there's a wall here, you know? And she said, well, it's pretty normal to have a wall when you first meet someone. And he's like, yeah, sure. But like, you know, could we try and open up and talk a little bit more? Because I feel like, you know, I'm working with fucking nothing here. And she just wouldn't budge. So he did what I said. He said, you know what? I think it was nice meeting you, but I'm going to go. And you know what she did? Usually you're going to get two reactions. One, she's going to chase and she's going to go, okay, never mind. I fucked up with this guy. I don't want to mess up with this guy. And the fact that he has the self-esteem and confidence to walk out, that shows a lot of good values and characteristics about a guy. It's really, really attractive. So she might chase, be like, hey, wait a second, da-da-da. Or if she's really, you know, in a bad spot in her life, and that's why she's acting this way, she has a huge wall up, she got fucked over or something, or if she's just kind of a bitch, she's gonna try and mirror it and like reject you first. And well, she chose the second option. So he said, hey, I'm gonna go. And she immediately reacted. I don't know exactly how she reacted. He just told me over a text, but I'm guessing it went something like, hey, you know what? This is cool and all, but you know, I feel like there's this wall and I don't really have a lot of work to work with. I'm just gonna, you know, it feels like we don't have any chemistry. I'm gonna leave. And as he said that to like start going and paying for the bill or whatever, she's like, I'm gonna go. And she tried to be the one to reject him first, which is clearly a sign that she wasn't really even she was interested enough to go on a date, but she had some shit going on. Clearly had some shit going on, or she's a bitch. And sometimes people are bitches not because they went through anything bad. Sometimes people they just suck, right? Because of their entitledness or whatever. But it's actually it's a minority of women. Usually people have a reason for why they've acted the way they have. And so he gave it a try, right? He took action in the face of a negative. So accept the positives at face value and accept the negatives at face value and just act accordingly. Then you can do all of your obsessive like, oh, should I have done this? Should I have done this? After, in retrospect, in review. Because then you have the most amount of information. But if you do it in the moment, most of the time you're going to end up misunderstanding and just fucking it up anyways. Because sometimes even when things are negative, if you just push forward, sometimes you can still succeed because whatever was a negative wasn't enough to stop her from wanting to get with you. A girl doesn't have to like you 100% to suck your dick or to even let you fuck her. She just has to like you enough. That's all you need. You just have to be good enough. You don't have to be great and you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be good enough. So if you want to get better with girls, I kind of talked about it a little bit. I highly suggest signing up for coaching. It's the absolute best way to improve really, really fast. Because even if I give you a course, which you can do, you know, I have a texting book, I have a day game course. Chase has his 1-date course to help with dates. Or, you know, if you go with some other company, you know, fuck me, I guess, you know, if you try to learn from someone else. You're gonna improve if the product is good, if the information is good, but you're usually gonna improve at a slower rate because it's impossible to perfectly tailor any course or product to every single person. It has to be generalized on some level, or it's gonna be a fucking, you know, a $100,000 course because it has, you know, 300 hours of content. And it's going to be so overwhelming because it accounts for every niche person, personality, circumstance. It's just too much, right? It has to be generalized at a certain level. So coaching is a way for the person to look at you and say, you need X and you need Y. And he saves you 95% of this process because he can go, you already have this down. You don't need to practice, but you need to really focus on this. You think you should have focused on this, but you actually need to work on that. That's what a coach is really good at. And I've had enough clients and enough personal experiences to pretty much help anyone. I can't guarantee it 100% because that would be a lie, but I could guarantee it pretty fucking close. I can pretty much help anyone. So if you're interested in that, there's a link in the description. You can sign up for a consultation and we can talk about the program and we can see if it's right for you and then we can move forward. And it is expensive though, I'll just tell you that. So if you can't afford that, if you're not interested, fuck this guy, you only like me 60%. You're willing to buy a course, but you're not willing to do coaching, right? It's like a girl likes you enough to kiss you, but not to choke on your cum. Great, cool. You still like me a little bit. I can work with that, okay? So description below, I have a texting book you can get, helps with texting, and I have a day game course, which teaches you how to meet girls everywhere. It's literally called Meet Girls Everywhere, okay? I talk about it in every single video because it's the best way to meet girls. You don't have to deal with clubs, loud music, aggressive, drunk, asshole men, girls having their walls sky high, trying to act cool and reject you. All the girls that you might get rejected by at the club because they're all dolled up and trying to act cool. She would be totally happy to meet you during the day because there's no pretentious reputational, protecting going on there. And again, there's no competition. Most guys are too much of pussies to just walk up to a girl in real life, outside of that controlled environment of like where everyone accepts, and agrees that it's a meat market. No, just talk to her in real life. Okay. It shows so many more positive characteristics of you as a man. And no matter if a guy is richer than you, taller than you, has a bigger dick, stronger than you, more popular, just the fact that you're willing to do this puts you above him in a lot of ways. Because the most attractive thing about a man, usually to women, is his willingness to just take a risk, and risk getting rejected, risk getting embarrassed. That's a lot of strength, though. And that's something that I'm talking about in this entire video, is the willingness to be embarrassed for the sake of profit. Whether it's romantic profit, if you're taking ventures in business, whatever, you're taking risks. And possibly you're going to succeed. And if you try enough, usually you're going to succeed. Usually people only fail when they give up. It's a trite cliche thing to say, but it's fucking true. Okay. So just as with everything in your life, your dating life, you're going to have to take risks and just walk out, in the middle of the day and go meet girls, in your city and downtown or wherever, there's a lot of people walking around. Just go do it. And I'll teach you how to do it in the course, from being total strangers to actually having her willing to go on a date with you after you had a 3 to 5 minute conversation. It really doesn't have to be that long. You would be so surprised. The most beautiful girls in the world would be willing to go on a date with you after meeting you for just a couple minutes. So I'll teach you how to do that with my course, Meet Girls Everywhere, description below. In my texting book, you have to learn how to text. You cannot get away with being a bad texter in these days. 99% of situations, you're going to have to text her at least a little bit. So just learn how to do it right. You have to put in work in the beginning, but once you do the work, then it's a skill set. You don't have to be great. You just have to be good enough. So my courses or my coaching will help you get there. All right. Hector Castillo, girlschase.com. Hope you enjoyed the video. Signing out. Ciao.